What's up, dudes? This is Ideas of Ice and Fire, and this is my video defending magic in A Song of Ice and Fire. And I'll tell you exactly what that means in just a second. So since George R. R. Martin released the Game of Thrones back in 1996, readers have been inventing theories to explain mysterious phenomena within the series. Some more credible than others, some blatantly obvious. One that I find intriguing to no end is the idea that A Song of Ice and Fire actually contains no magic, and that all the fascinating things like skin changing and raising the dead can be explained through the lens of science fiction. If you want more information on these ideas, please check out Preston Jacobs' channel because he goes into quite a bit of detail about it. But it seems as though when you look at George's past work, which happens to be largely science fiction, there are a lot of similarities between several elements in many of his stories and A Song of Ice and Fire. So if this theory is true, it would appear that we've been hoodwinked. We thought we were reading fantasy, but we got sci-fi. Oh my god. But wait, let's slow down a little bit. I know I'm going to disappoint a lot of people by saying this, but I don't actually buy into this theory, and I have my reasons, which I'm about to go into. When asked about the genetics involved in warging, George R. R. Martin responded, "I don't want to get into genetics. This is fantasy, not sci-fi," he replied. "I don't think it's necessarily a Stark ability, though all the children have it to one extent or another." So right there, George R. R. Martin straight up says, this is fantasy, not sci-fi. And that's rather damning by itself. And I know that also there have been, like charts made about, the genetics of dragon riding. Preston did a whole thing about that. And I don't buy into that for a similar reason, and it comes in the form of a quote. When George was asked about Brienne and whether or not she has two Y chromosomes, he responded, "If I started worrying about Brienne's chromosomes, the next step is trying to figure out the aerodynamic properties of dragons, and the whole thing falls apart." So I don't think George R. R. Martin is so meticulous that he would take the time to invent something like a dragon rider chart from the history of the Targaryens. I don't think that's very plausible.
Fantasy requires magic of some sort. Otherwise, without magic, it's just historical fiction about history that never happened. If you look at Lord of the Rings, what strikes you, and certainly struck me, is that although the world is infused with this great sense of magic, there's very little onstage magic. So you have a sense of magic, but it's kept under very tight control. And I really took that to heart when I was starting my own series.
In my opinion, the elements in A Song of Ice and Fire that are similar to elements in George R. R. Martin's sci-fi A Thousand Worlds universe are simply literary allusions to his previous work. I would say that there is a rather superficial difference between sci-fi and fantasy. It's simply a matter of the setting and the characters, whether or not you use elves or aliens, or whether or not you shoot phasers or you fight with swords. In A Song of Ice and Fire, there is no science to be fictionalized, so just by definition, it can't be science fiction. Clearly, George R. R. Martin has a very deep respect for the fantasy genre. And aside from simply calling him a liar, I don't see how you can make the argument that there is not any magic in A Song of Ice and Fire when he clearly says that there is, and he's the author, he's the arbiter of the world. What he says goes, at least in my opinion. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe for more Ideas of Ice and Fire.